I'm Tumelo Ntlapo, and I would like to welcome you to Robotics and Environmental Sciences, Unit 3. Once again, thank you so much. Greetings, ladies and gents. I'm Tumelo Ntlapo. I'm a science facilitator here at the UNISA Science Engagement Center. Yesterday, we touched on introduction to robotics and environmental sciences. Here we got interesting terms that we learned, that we used. Other participants even had questions, and we had some clarification in terms of what is environmental sciences and some of the topics that we have that are, I mean, not only topics, but some of the technological devices that are currently being used within the environmental sciences industry, not only limited to environmental sciences, but also we looked at geography to be exact. And then on Unit 2, we covered introduction to robotics and the My 2050 environmental calculator. So here I spoke about the simulation app that we use to highlight climate change. So the main aim of the simulation app is to introduce concepts such as climate change, global warming, and I touched on concepts or terms that are normally used that we call greenhouse gas emissions. And I also showed you how you as an educator or a facilitator or a student or a learner of how you can break that down and to even understand it further. I showed you that you can even go to the MOOC portal as well as signing up there and also ensuring that you are part of the Robotics and Environmental Sciences MOOC and getting the documents. Today, before that, we also spoke about the technological devices that are being used within the environmental sector. And I had a guest that spoke about that robots that they use to sanitize a place, not only in offices, but also in hospitals and clinics. I'm tempting you so that you can get a look at Unit 1 and 2. And then for Unit 3, we're going to talk about robotics and the environmental calendar. So without wasting time, what I'll do, I'm simply going to stop sharing my screen. And then I'll go to the MOOC portal. So this is the habit that we have, or I have developed. The reason why I'm doing this, it is for you as a participant who's interested into our MOOC portals. You can know where to find the MOOCs and how to register as well. So if you have never registered here, you can simply go to new account. And once you're done clicking on new account, you click on user ID. There on user ID, you can put in Tumelo123 or your name at 123. You don't have to necessarily put on your ID number. And then you don't have to put in your ID number. You have to put in your first name, your last name, your email address, take a password. I mean, select the password that you're comfortable with and that it will be easy for you to remember. And then ensure that you remember your password and your user ID. But what I normally recommend is the old class or the old school version. Just take a picture so that you don't forget what your user ID is as well as your password. Once you are done, this is where now you are going to insert your details. This will be your user ID as well as your password. This will be the first page that you're going to see. Underneath the UNISA logo, there are different tabs. Then you are going to click on the membership tab. After clicking on the membership tab, you go to joinable sites. After clicking on joinable sites, you are going to look for robotics and environmental sciences. You are going to scroll down looking for robotics and environmental sciences. Once you see it, you're going to click on join. Once you click join, it will appear on my current sites or here at the top on the highlighted top here. Or you can simply go to my current sites and simply find it there. It will be it will be written as robotics and enviro science. That's the mini abbreviation of it. And then from there, this is where you can see the information or some bit of introduction whereby you'll meet your facilitators and their relevant email addresses. Once you're done, I normally encourage you to eat the elephant in small bites, meaning that you have to click on syllabus. On syllabus, this is where you find your robotics and environmental sciences overview document, some few educational resources, the environmental calendar, the environmental calculator, environmental news, and the WESA WWF SESI. So for those of you who attended yesterday's session, I touched on environmental news and I said for you that please share with us any breaking news, any environmental news that you'd like for us to share with you for the upcoming sessions. You can send us an email with the latest or breaking news that you'd like for us to touch on or to talk about or to break it down. And then that's how this community will keep on growing. So as I've indicated, the environmental calendar is today's topic. So on the environmental calendar, what we'll be talking about here, it's what is the environmental calendar? So the environmental calendar is a calendar that is used to highlight the importance of the environment. This includes your animals, your plants, and the general environment, which can be your soil, your water, the air that we breathe. So for example, we are currently in the month of April, sorry. We are currently in the month of April. And yesterday, as you can see there, on the month of April, it was World Penguin Day. So in such, the reason why they had to celebrate World Penguin Day is to raise awareness of the importance of penguins within the ecosystem, meaning the environment. What role do penguins play and how do they contribute within the ecosystem? I'm sure for your learners that you are teaching, you have taught them in terms of food chain as well as your food web. That will be a link up so that they get to know. And also in World Penguin Day, you talk about things such as the dangers that penguins are currently experiencing, such as your poaching, the meat trade that's happening, as well as urbanization, meaning that we get to go to places that normally are places that are suited for animals, meaning we are crowding those animals. They end up invading our houses and they end up staying somewhere else and being affected. So those are the things that World Penguin Day does. And it also encourages you to celebrate that day by raising awareness. You see, like now I'm raising the awareness of World Penguin Day. I'm sure you'll even take time to even go and check on the net what penguins are all about. And it also talks about some different types of penguins because we have different types of penguins in different types of countries as well as continents. So you get to see that there are different types of penguins as well. All right. And then with us here at the UNISA Science Engagement Center, last year, June, we covered mostly all the days that are there within the environmental calendar. We covered mostly the World Oceans Day. This is where we highlight the importance of the ocean. Here we created a game whereby participants get to engage while learning at the same time within this challenge. So as you can see on the sides, those are creatures that are found in the sea. And then that's a robotics table. We printed an ocean. And in the middle, those are your bottle leads. And those bottle leads that you're seeing there, we now encourage you as a coach or an educator to introduce this to your learners, to say, how about we learn more about this? But remember here, it's all about having fun when you learn. So the purpose of this is for you to create a robot that will be able to flush out all those leads while least avoiding the fish. And this can be a game whereby you can even highlight the importance of the ocean, talk about pollution, talk about poaching, talk about overfishing, and some few different careers that are within the marine space. So without wasting time, I would like to introduce to one of my guests that will also, that's part of the South African National Space Agency. Her name is Sine Sipo. She's going to cover some few technological devices that are currently being used within the environmental industry and how they contribute as well into the environment. And you as an educator or as a learner, you can learn as well as pursue some careers related into this. Welcome, Sine Sipo.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to Melo.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome.
You can hear me, Mos? Okay.
Yes, yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Should I show my video for like a few minutes just to introduce myself?
Before you introduce yourself and share your video, with what I've just shared with you, do you have any comments that you would like to say or anything that you have learned?
No, there are no comments for now.
No,
For now.
for now. All right,
Yes.
sweet. Over to you then. Thank you so much.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I am going to first introduce myself. My name is Inesi Ngamile, as Dumelo has already said. I am a Science Engagement Officer from the South African National Space Agency. I am based in our head office is in Pretoria, so that is where I am right now. So I'll just switch off my video and start with the presentation. So basically what my presentation will be about is, it will be mainly focused on space science and technology, or the South African National Space Agency, the work that we do and how we use robots such as satellites, or systems such as satellites, to monitor the environment using remote sensing or through Earth observation. So SANSA was created to promote the use of space and strengthen cooperation in space-related activities. While we also do research in space science, we advance scientific engineering through developing human capital and supporting industrial development in space technologies. So we are based in 3 areas or 3 sites, but we are mainly based in 2 provinces. So we are based in Hermanus in the Western Cape. We are also based in Hartbeespoort here in Gauteng. And like I said, I am in Pretoria right now. We are also based in Pretoria. So we are an agency of the South African government, but we are an entity of the Department of Science and Innovation. And we have 4 divisions or 4 programs at SANSA, well, 4 divisions mainly, and then we also have other undercutting programs or cross-cutting programs, such as the Human Capital Development Program, as well as the Science Engagement Program. So, like I said, we have 4 divisions, the first one being the Space Engineering Division or Program, the Space Operations Program, the Space Science Program, and the Earth Observation Program. So all of these programs have their own uses, or they do different work, which I will explain in the next slides. So with the space program or the engineering program, that's where we deal with satellite development, or we work with the industry to develop or manufacture satellites. So we've worked with a lot of institutions within the space science and technology industry, like the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, to manufacture some satellites. I'll see if I can show you some of the pictures of some of the satellites that we have worked in manufacturing with the universities or people within the industry. So essentially, we work with people in the industry to manufacture or develop satellites. And then after those satellites are developed, they obviously have to be launched into outer space. So we deal with launch support. But of course, those satellites are not launched in South Africa. They may be launched in other parts of the world, because South Africa does not have launching capabilities yet. But they are developments that are being done currently in order for South Africa to have those kinds of programs or those kinds of capabilities. So we also have a space science program. So space science is based in Hermanus in the Western Cape. Oh, I didn't mention that space operations is a program that is based in USEC. We have a farm here. Well, we have a farm here in Gauteng, where we have more than 40 antennas or satellite dishes that we use to monitor or to track satellites that are in outer space. So I will try to explain what exactly that program does in the next slides as well. So space science is based in Hermanus in the Western Cape. That's where we deal with space weather, or looking at the sun's activities, how the sun affects us here on Earth, or specifically how the sun affects our satellites, how the sun's radiation affects our satellites in outer space. So we have recently launched or opened a space weather center in Hermanus, which is the first one in Africa. So it's based in Hermanus, and we monitor the sun for 24 hours, 7 days a week. And also with space operations, we monitor and track satellites for 24 hours, 7 days a week. And then the last program is called the Earth Observation Program. So that is where I am based. That program deals with image acquisition and image distribution, meaning that we get data from satellites, we process that data, we analyze that data, and then we are able to provide images or maps to clients that we work with, or the industry that is in need of these maps. So this is where the monitoring of the environment comes in. It comes into the Earth Observation Division. So I will be mainly talking about the Earth Observation Division today, since it has to do with environmental sciences as well. So this is just to show you that when a satellite goes to outer space, we use a rocket to launch it into outer space. And then when it gets to outer space, it orbits around the Earth in outer space. And this is just to also show you, some people usually confuse the two, a satellite dish and a satellite. So a satellite is an object that is in outer space. A satellite dish or antenna is an object on the surface of the Earth that is used to communicate with the satellite in outer space. So when a satellite is orbiting around the Earth or going around the Earth in outer space, it transmits information or data to a satellite dish, and then that data is then captured by computers or systems that we have in place at our space operations facility, and then we can use that data to make maps, or to process maps or information that we can provide to the clients that we work with. And so this is the space operations system. So basically, like I said, the satellite goes to outer space using a rocket, and then when it gets to outer space, it orbits around the Earth. And then that information is recorded by a satellite dish or antenna. And then we have people in our operations room that are tracking that satellite, people that are downloading data from that satellite, people that are monitoring that satellite's movement. We also host other satellite dishes from other space industries or other countries in the world, and also we work with other clients within the industry. So, for example, we work with communications or telecommunications, the telecommunications industry, to monitor their satellites as well, or to track their satellites. And then this is basically showing the space operations coverage, which means it shows how far our satellite dishes can see. So basically, when a satellite passes over this red boundary over here, we cannot monitor what it does outside of that red boundary. So our satellite dishes will be here where this black dot is located or showing. And then once the satellites in outer space move over this boundary, then we cannot see. Then that's when another country comes into the fold and assists with monitoring the satellites in other parts of the world. But essentially, like I said, we monitor, track satellites, and download information from those satellites. And then the space science program, like I said, it deals with monitoring the sun and its activity, and we provide space weather forecasts or warnings. So we like to say that we work sort of like the South African weather services, but we work in outer space. We don't deal with terrestrial weather. We deal with weather that is in outer space, but specifically focusing on the sun's activities. And so this is also just to show you that when a satellite goes to outer space, well, there are many types of satellites, or three types of satellites. We have low Earth orbit satellites, medium Earth orbit satellites, and geostationary Earth orbit satellites. So some people don't know that when they are watching television, they are actually using something that is in outer space. If you didn't know, DSTV actually stands for Digital Satellite Television, meaning that when you are watching television at home using DSTV, you are using a geostationary Earth orbiting satellite, which circles the Earth or orbits the Earth for 24 hours to make sure that you are able to communicate or able to watch television. So this satellite is about 36,000 or close to 36,000 kilometers away from the Earth's surface. And it gives us, or it enables us to communicate, watch television, listen to the radios, be able to call people, etc. And then another one that you may not know that you use is the medium Earth orbit satellite. So those ones you will find at 19,000 kilometers away from the Earth's surface. So these are the ones that you use for GPS or global positioning systems. So when you are using Google Maps, for example, you type in the name of an area you want to go to. It tells you how far it will take you to get to that area and which routes to take. You are using a medium Earth orbit satellite. And then when you are also sharing your location on WhatsApp, when you are checking in on Facebook, but essentially all the things that have to do with the locations, that is when you are using a medium Earth orbit satellite. And then at SANSA, we mainly make use of the low Earth orbit satellites or Earth observation satellites in order to monitor the environment. So those ones you will find at 200 to 1,200 kilometers away from the Earth, and it takes them about 1 hour, 30 minutes or 90 minutes to go around the Earth or orbit around the Earth. So like I said, we mainly use the low Earth orbit satellites for Earth observation purposes. So Earth observation is basically about gathering information about the planet, about planet Earth's physical, chemical, and biological systems using remote sensing, which involves satellites. So these are some of the Earth observation, low Earth orbit satellites or Earth observation satellites that have been launched, well, not in South Africa, but have been manufactured in South Africa. So the first one there is called GreenSat. It was never launched. It is currently in a facility in the Western Cape called Gauteng. It was cancelled, or its launch was cancelled in 1994 due to a lack of funds. And then the second one is called Sunset, which was launched in 1999. So this was a sort of like a pioneer satellite where we could see that South Africa has the capabilities of launching satellites or manufacturing satellites. So this one was made by students at Stellenbosch University and also with people in the industry. And it was launched in the United States. So like I said, we don't have launching capabilities in South Africa, but yeah, so our satellites are not launched in South Africa yet. And then the other one is called Sumbandila Sat or Sumbandila Satellite, launched in 2009. The other one is called Sepiso Sat or ZA Tube 1. It is also called a nano satellite. It was launched in 2013 in Russia. It was also manufactured by students and people in the industry. So the Cape Peninsula University of Technology was involved in this project. And then the other one is called ZA Tube 2, launched in 2018. It is also a nano satellite. It is a small satellite. So the ones that are called nano satellites are small satellites. So they started making smaller ones because I guess it costs a lot of money to make the bigger ones. So they started making more nano satellites that are low Earth orbit satellites. So again, this one was also launched in Russia. And then we also had launched, they're not in this picture, but there were other ones that were launched last year in January, launched in the United States of America by Elon Musk's company. They are called MTSats. They are also nano satellites. So we have made quite a few satellites, but we haven't launched them on our own yet. So, like I said, they are mainly for Earth observation, and Earth observation involves the use of satellites for remote sensing. So remote sensing is basically the science of getting information about an object or feature without being in physical contact with it. So that is where monitoring of the environment comes in. We use satellites or robots such as satellites to monitor our environment. So this is how Earth observation is done, where the sun interacts with the Earth's resources, and then that radiation from the sun is reflected back into the atmosphere. Then the satellite will record that reflected radiation and will transmit that information to a ground receiving station. From there, it will go through analysis or processing. That is when remote sensing scientists are involved. They analyze, process, and develop products for end users. So end users will be people that may be involved in fields such as agriculture, weather monitoring, town planning, disaster management, etc. So remote sensing and Earth observation involves GIS or geographic information systems. So after all that data is collected, after all the data is collected by remote sensing or through remote sensing by satellites, that data, it will then be used in GIS or geographic information systems. And GIS is a system that is used to assemble, to store, to analyze, to manipulate, update, and display geographically referenced information or data that is identified by its location. So essentially, in simple terms, we are trying to take the real world and we want to put it into a 2D or let's say a 2D representation that is a map or represented in a form of a map. So we take the real world and then we represent it in a 2D representation, or we represent it in a map. So it involves the people, which are the people that collect the data. It involves the data that is collected by the satellites. It involves the hardware, which is the computers or are the computers that we use to process this data. It involves the software. So the software, I will talk about the software, the kind of software that we use to process this data. It involves the software that we use to process this data. It involves the methods or procedures that we follow in order to process this data. So that is what GIS is about. And these are some of the GIS software that we use to process data that we get from remote sensing or satellites, software like Quantum GIS, but other software such as Google Earth Pro are used for well, they are mostly for public consumption or public use. So you can go on Google Earth Pro and you'll be able to get a satellite image of an area that you live in, or a satellite image of a school, or a satellite image of any area in the world. And it can also assist you with collecting locations and anything that has to do with GIS or remote sensing. Then another one is also, using Google Maps. You can also get a satellite image by using Google Maps on your cell phones. So we also use that for demonstration when we do outreach all over the country to show people how they can easily access satellite data. But there are obviously many other GIS software that are used, but this one is just to show you the kinds of GIS related platforms or software that is free to use by anyone. So the applications of remote sensing or satellite images have to do with geology, mining, agriculture, urban planning, urban development, water quality, uh, fire mapping or burn scar mapping, flood analysis, snow mapping, climate change. So we basically collect data using satellites, or we collect data about these applications that I mentioned here, and we collect data about them, and then we can provide maps that are related to them, and we can provide these maps to people that need them for decision making or for any other purposes, of just to monitor and manage our resources. And so the first one here, an example of one of the applications is disaster management. So this one is an image of an area in KwaZulu-Natal when there were floods last year around April, I think. So this shows a before image and an after image. The image on the left is a before floods image, and then the image on the right is an image of the after effects of the effects of the floods after the event happened. So it shows how the area was damaged, and this image can be used by people in KZN for decision-making purposes. So someone does not have to physically travel to an area to see the damage of that area. They can use a satellite image or a map to monitor the area and see the kind of damage that was done in that area. So that is for disaster management or damage assessment. And then satellites are also used for flood risk mapping, or looking at areas that are vulnerable to floods. So looking at areas all over South Africa that may be vulnerable to floods, so we can assist with flood preparedness. So people should know that when they are building in an area, that area may be vulnerable to flooding. So we can assist with that, looking at those kinds of areas. And then another one is human settlements. So with human settlements, we can look at how an area has grown over time. This is something that is called change detection, looking at the areas, their growth over time, looking at the kinds of settlements that you have in areas. So for example, this image shows that in Soweto, there may be townships or informal settlements. It also shows other areas like Sandton that may have formal residents or formal settlements. And then, it shows how settlements are dispersed all over an area. And then this can help someone. Let's say someone has a business and they want to open a business somewhere. They can target an area or look at their target market by just looking at a satellite image. So we have worked with the Department of Small, I think it's the Department of Small Businesses, if I'm not mistaken. So where they can look at where their small businesses are located and look at the target markets of each area, or which areas they target for their businesses. So another one is for agriculture. We can look at how plants or how our crops have, whether they have enough nutrients, whether our crops have enough moisture. We can look at the damage or look at whether a crop is healthy or not by just using a satellite image. So again, monitoring an area without being there physically. And then another one is for monitoring water bodies, looking at water quality, and also looking at how water body, how some dams are losing their water or how rivers are losing their water. But essentially, we look at water quality, which areas of a dam are contaminated, and then this information can be provided to people that may need this kind of information, like the Department of Water and Sanitation, that monitor water bodies or monitor all of our water bodies in South Africa. So
I'm
this is
going
also
to kindly cut Ms. Sinesipo.
okay. No, I'm also done.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost done. I mean,
All right.
yeah. So this is an image of how well another image of a map, how we use maps in Sansa. This also shows, this is a map that we usually create after we have engaged with areas around South Africa. This is another form of a map that we provide. It's not only image-based, but we can provide maps like the one that you are seeing here. And these are some of the programs that we have within our human capital development. So we have student mentorship programs, we have postgraduate student funding, which is currently open now. We have internships, we do science engagement, we do stakeholder engagements or municipality trainings, we do teacher trainings for GIS and for the science engagement community as well. And these are the subjects that we support. So for subjects that learners in high school will need to study. So apart from life orientation or natural sciences, we encourage learners to study physical sciences, geography, and mathematics, but we support other subjects in primary school level like natural sciences for planet Earth and beyond. And we also support life orientation, which is the future home of disaster management. And disaster management is one of the applications of remote sensing. So these are some of the careers that are within the space industry. These are not the only ones. There are obviously many other ones, but a person can become, I'll just focus on remote sensing since this is an environmental sciences based platform or engagement. So remote sensing, someone can become a remote sensing scientist, where you are the person that uses satellites or gets data from satellites, and you are able to process that data, analyze that data, and you can make maps and provide those maps to people that we work with. So you can study a degree related to environmental sciences. You would have to major in remote sensing and GIS, or study a Bachelor of Sciences degree in geoinformatics. And like I said, there are many other ones that you can follow. So since I don't have a lot of time, I won't go into the other ones. Thank you very much.
Sinesipo, thank you so much for your presentation. Really appreciate the fact that you started introducing it and then you spoke about the importance of technology with that regard, as well as some few careers on that field. So one thing that I would like to add on is that I know Neo asked a question yesterday. So some of those career fields that Sinosipo mentioned, we also offer a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Sciences here at UNISA as well. And for those of you who are unable to study such or perhaps don't have funds yet or don't have the necessary credits, we offer a MOOC called Robotics and Environmental Sciences, which introduces you to such highlights. I've noted your hand now. So, Sinosipo, I just want to ask a question. You said you offer teacher training as well as GIS training. So,
Yes.
if a teacher is interested in such, or perhaps if us would like to educate teachers on this, are there free websites perhaps that are available there, or they have to pay for such?
No, they don't have to pay for the trainings. So we offer the trainings for free.
Right.
We do physical sciences trainings as well as geography trainings for
Right.
teachers, and they won't
Wow.
have to pay for them. Well, we go to the school, so we go to, if they invite us, we go there and
All right.
we do the trainings for free.
All right. Thank you so much once again, Sinisipo. Your hand was noted, Neo. I'll give you permission, but because of time, I would like to introduce one of my speakers. Please write your question down, and then when that opportunity arises, certainly will answer your question. So the next speaker is Mr. Spusiso. So the fun part about this presentation is so interesting because here they talk about cancer discovery using different types of resources. I hope he's going to highlight some bit of technology or the technology that I would like to pursue. Mr. Spusiso, are you in? Greetings.
Greetings, Mr. Tukelo. Thank you so much for the invitation and to you and your team. And hopefully, I can share some of the work that we are doing here at UNISA in terms of drug discovery and the type of technology that we are implementing to fast track.
All right. Before you start sharing your screen or your video, kindly please do you have any comments regarding this session? Is this session beneficial? Do you think that these kinds of sessions are needed, and will this benefit the general public?
Absolutely, absolutely. What I've been listening to, like,
Come again?
I'm saying it's quite interesting what they are doing and how they are tracking all of these environmental changes remotely, which I think is something that our communities and students can benefit from. So I think also what I'm going to present today will sort of highlight some of the issues that we have in health. And I'm glad that you also showed that calendar of the environmental calendar, where the 7th of April was World Health Day. So this presentation I'm going to talk to now, well, we will cover that sort of aspect.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Spusiso.
Thank you very much. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Maybe let me just show my face for a couple of seconds to introduce myself. Video. Everyone.
There we go. Hey, Tada.
Thank you. So I'm Spusiso Malindisa. I'm a lecturer here at UNISA in biotechnology and also working on my PhD in cancer research. So today I'm hoping to share with you some of the work that we are doing at UNISA in terms of drug discovery research, and also probably highlight some of the how robotics and artificial intelligence help us fast track. So I'm just gonna quickly give you a background and then the current research at UNISA and so on. Okay, so what is cancer? So cancer basically is the overgrowth of cells. So you have cells growing too much in a particular area of the body. Usually, this process is a tightly controlled process in the body, which allows the division of cells in a normal fashion. So, for example, if you get an injury, the cell will be, the body will initiate a process of making new cells to replace that cut, for example, that you have. However, cancers overtake this mechanism, and what they do, they start growing and growing and causing something of the sort, where you see some areas in the bodies having this growth of cells that are not required. So cancer really can grow anywhere in the body as long as there are cells. Blood, brain, lungs, kidney, hair, skin, you name it. Mm. And if I can just highlight some of the rates of the cancer in the world. And if you look at South Africa, so the darker the color, the higher the rate of cancer is. So if you focus right there in Africa, you can see that sub-Saharan Africa has very high cancer rates. And this can be explained by the fact that we are becoming more industrialized and therefore we are living longer. And we know that cancer the risk of cancer increases with age. As you can see in the high-income countries such as United States, the UK, Australia. You see there, it's very dark because people there are living up till their 80s and 90s, and cancer increases with age. Now, if we get a picture now of how we are doing in terms of treatment and how many people are dying in these spaces, and you can see now that it is very different. Whilst again, the darker the color, the more death there is in that area. So we can see now the difference that in some of these countries where you see high rates of cancer, the death is quite low compared to South Africa. So if we superimpose these two graphs together, and you look at the top countries there, like Australia and New Zealand, which are detecting about almost 500 rates of cancer per 100,000 people. And here in Southern Africa, we are only detecting just half of that. But in terms of death, we are experiencing more death than those countries I've just mentioned. So there is that skewness that requires us to address it. So how what causes cancer really? So cancer is mostly caused by mutations in DNA, and usually these are mutations that are in genes that control how the cell must grow. And these genes can be tumor suppressor, like the name, it suppresses the formation of a tumor. DNA repair, like the name, if the DNA is damaged, these genes come and repair. And then proto-oncogenes, on the other hand, although it does not say in the name, these are the genes that encourage cell growth. So if I can use an example of a robot, sorry, not this robot, I mean South Africa, these are this is the two robots in South Africa. Okay, so we know that a robot controls traffic, right? And if and it controls this traffic so smoothly to allow the flow of of cars on the road. Okay, but if this traffic light is not working, we get something of sort where you get now this accumulation of cars in that area because probably the traffic light is constantly green, okay? For example, allowing now everyone from each of the sides to come through. And that is how we define cancer as a genetic disease. So there is that faulty of the traffic light in this case. So who can tell me what happens in a normal situation where the traffic light is not working? What do we do? Well, if the traffic light is not working, it's mostly because of city power. Probably the traffic light is not working because of power. And what we can do is then approach them and say, please fix the light. Okay. Or you can put there a traffic cop and to control the traffic. Okay. So in drug discovery, we are doing that strategy of either telling city power that, hey, something is wrong, fix the robot, or introducing traffic cops into that space so that they can control the traffic and normal growth of cells. However, we know that we have these buggers that can still escape that mechanism that we try to put in. So, like cancer, also, although we have these drugs that target that, but we still have these cancers that can escape that mechanism of trying to treat them. So, because of that, now we understand that it's not only the robots that can control the accumulation of these cars, it's also the markings on the road. Maybe they are not very visible, or it could be the weather conditions, it's rainy, it's slippery, or the brakes of the cars are not working. So, in the same way, we now understand that cancer is not only caused by that genetic mutation, but there are various other mechanisms that are occurring in the body that support the growth of cancer. For example, if I can highlight avoiding that immune destruction, it means the cells cannot be detected by the body as cancer. The body sees them as normal cells. Sometimes these cells uh, invade other places. So we know now that cancer has various other characteristics. So it requires when we treat it to try and attack it on all sides. So how can this cancer arise? It can either be inherited, which means you can get the mutation from your parent or grandparent, or it can be acquired. So acquired, it means it can be uh, gotten over time. Mm. So some of the causes of these genetic changes could be environmental. For example, exposure to certain viruses, such as the human papillomavirus, which causes cervical cancer, or exposure to UV radiation. Too much sun is not good. Sometimes exposure to chemicals that are carcinogens, such as in mine dump areas and so on, are also culprits in causing cancer. So how are we addressing this? So we want to understand, how does the cancer come about? How can we detect it? And also, how can we treat it? And we can use various models using 2D cell cultures. So these are literally cells that are taken from a patient that has cancer and culture them in our drug can stop the growth of the cancer. But also, not only that, we are interested in using model organisms such as flies and mice, which we'll see later how we use flies to address this issue. Yeah. So, starting with some of the work that we have done so far. So using this very nice instrument that we have here at the UNISA Science Campus in Joburg, it's called the laser scanning confocal microscopy. So what this does, it allows us to visualize certain parts of the cell to see how they differ from a cancer cell and also how it differs from a normal cell. So what we do here is we stain particular proteins that we know are involved in cancer, and we try to make sense to see where in the cells are these proteins located and how can we target them. So this is some part of the work that we are doing here at UNISA, and it's part of the work that I've done also with my colleagues at Vets University. Now, moving on to treatment. So it's important for us to understand what causes the cancer so that we can treat it. Okay, so there's various ways of treating cancer, and one way is surgery. So basically cutting out the tumor. And we know someone who's famous, Angelina Jolie, who had a mutation in one of her breast cancer causing genes. And what she had done was that she remove her breast before the cancer develops. We do have also radiation, which basically you shine high energy of radiation towards the body, and that X-ray kills, damages the DNA of the cancer, allowing it to those cancer to die. However, this type of treatment is not always great because it also damages the normal cell. Exactly the same, chemotherapy is also using various agents to attack cancer cells, but because it is also uh, targeting some of the normal physiological processes, it also affects normal cells. So you see people undergoing chemotherapy or radiation having side effects as sight loss, vomiting, and so on. So now we have tried to move on now onto a targeted approach, which is now taking it back to that robot. Now you are targeting that robot specifically instead of targeting the whole, all of the cars. You're targeting the robot to fix the system, and this is called targeted cancer therapy. But besides that, there's also telling the immune system that, hey, this is the cancer, please go and kill it. Okay, I'm just gonna move on so that for time people. So here at UNISA, we are really interested in developing drugs against cancer. And developing these drugs can take up to 20 years. From the moment of basic research is identifying the target to getting the drug approved. And it's very, very costly. It can cost billions and billions of rands. So what we are doing here now is we are trying to recycle drugs that are already in the market. For example, such as your aspirin. Aspirin has been shown to have anti-cancer activities. And this repurposing of the drug then reduces that time frame from about 20 years to about 3 to 9 years, and also less cost. So this is the work that we are doing, and I'm doing it under Prof. Ndwasa, who is Deputy Executive Dean, college, where we start really with computational screening. So that's on the back, or I mean, sorry, on your laptop or PC, where we screen for various compounds and see if they can have anti-cancer activity. And we use this software that I'm showing you now to also model these type of studies. So what we have found is that there is a drug that is currently used as a cholesterol lowering agent. So it's used to treat cardiovascular disease, but we've shown that this particular drug can bind one of the proteins. So it can bind one of the robot colors and actually return the flow of cars normally. And using computational tools, we are able to see if our drug, which you can see ezetimibe there, if our drug can actually bind to our target protein and using computational methods. So once we have confirmed this computationally, what we do, we then move to the labs and then we do this using various assays. And this is some part of one of the machines that help us determine the level of cell death and cell viability in the lab. So from this machine, really, what it can do, it can then tell us um, how is the activity of the drug in different cell lines. So what you're seeing here is different cell lines, lung cancers, melanoma, breast cancer, as well as colorectal cancer. And you can see that this particular drug does kill the cancer cell, but does not kill the normal one. Another machine that we use is called the flow cytometry. This one now tells us how are the cells dying. Okay. So this is also very automated. What you do is you put your sample into that area there, and what it does, it's going to suck up the sample and give you a graph that you see on your left, which determines, in a way, tells you how many of the cells are dying and how many are alive. And to the next one. And we have also, this one is also another one that we recently procured. This machine is about 3 million rands, and this one is fully automated. So this one helps us determine how much of a particular protein is either upregulated or downregulated in cancers, and what happens when we insert the drug. So this is fully automated, and it does this within 3 hours, whereas usually in the normal world, this will take you about 4 days. So technology is really helping us in human that is now currently being used in cancer. So drug repurposing is quite relevant and is the future of drug discovery. But besides that, we are also looking into medicinal plants. So which is also something that is in alignment with the environmental calendar. Where we're looking at also how can we use medicinal plants that we know from home, from our great grandparents, that they have used in the past to cure various diseases. So we are also in that business, and we have identified some plants that we have published that we've shown that have anti-cancer activity, as well as green tea. So green tea contains a group of compounds called catechins that have been shown to also reduce the growth of cancer. We are also very interested in synthesizing our own drugs as well, although this will take a very long time, but it's still quite very relevant, and we collaborate with chemistry in this aspect. And then there's this nice, interesting thing that we do also is that we are in the business of using flies, which flies as a model to study cancer. So we know that we and fruit flies. So fruit flies are the ones that you will usually find in a rodent tomato as a fruit as a sweet smell. What is very interesting about these flies is that we have about 70% genetic similarity, which means the same genes in the flies that are responsible for function in humans are also responsible for the same function in humans. Sorry. So, and what's interesting also about this is that they have a short generation time, which means you can get thousands and thousands of flies within 2 weeks. And also, they are very easy to maintain. So, if you go back to that drug discovery process, therefore, these become very attractive because now they help us to restrict the drug discovery process and also make it quite cheap. And how do we do this? We try and regenerate the cancer from the human and replicate it in the fly, and then we treat the fly with the drug that we have to see if that cancer subsides. Now, the future more also includes AI and robotics. So using machine learning and deep learning to predict what will happen in the body and also predict some of the structures of the protein because it's quite important for us to know the structure of the protein so we can design the right type of drugs. So AI is quite very important for us in that aspect, but also robotics. So robotics has come through in terms of helping us do high throughput screening, which means you screen a number of drugs, a number of cancer cell lines in, in, in a very short space of time. And this can be assisted through help of robotics, which automate everything. So this is just one of the ones that we are planning to implement in our labs. Also, what is important is 3D printing. So we are also in the area of looking into 3D printing to sort of replicate the disease outside the body of a human and try and treat it from there. So if I can just wrap up, cancer requires everyone to be uh, participating. This requires communities, scientists, engineers, mathematicians, policymakers, literally everyone, educators, so we can educate people about cancer. People are able to know what the symptoms of cancer are, how can they get treatment, and to get the treatment. With that said, I'd like to thank all of the funders for this research and the organizers for inviting me today. And this is the work that I do with this amazing team of people. And thank you again, Mr. Dumelo and Robotics, for the invitation.
All right. Thank you so much, Smusiswa.